மணிக்கிரணாவலி நிகர்த்தருமக்ஷரமண மகிழ்மாலை திருநாடிய திருவடியார் திருமருள் தெளிய பரவுதல் பொருளாக கருணாகரமுனி ரமணாரியனுவகையினார் சொல்லியது கதியாக அருணாச்சலமென அகமே அறிவொடுமாழ்வார் சிவனுலகாழ்வாரே.
During the mid-part of the 20th century, a steady stream of visitors traveled to the ancient land of Tamil Nadu in the southern region of India to experience the remarkable presence and clear teachings of Sri Ramana Maharshi. The Maharshi's name needs little introduction, for then, as now, seekers who wish to awaken from the powerful illusion of the ego and abide in the perfect peace of their true nature have turned to his teachings. There was a spontaneous simplicity and humility about him, a sense of universal equality and heart-melting love. His actions were natural and spontaneous and reflected a life that was fully identified with the one consciousness, the self in all beings. Carl Jung had planned to visit the Maharshi, but for various reasons never made it. Jung writes about Ramana. What we find in the life and teachings of Sri Ramana is the purest of India, with its breath of world-liberated and liberating humanity. It is a chant of millenniums. In India, he is the whitest spot in a white space. Born in 1879 to pious parents, the child was named Venkataraman. Aside from several auspicious indications surrounding his birth, there were few specific signs that the young boy's destiny would take a spiritual turn. When he was only 16 years old, attending high school in the city of Madurai, in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, he had a remarkable experience of death, which led to a permanent awakening to the deathless spirit. Arriving at the sacred hill Arunachala, he spent the next 54 years either on its slopes or foothills. People from all over the world came to sit in his presence, which had the profound effect of quieting the mind and providing glimpses of the perfect peace which is our natural state. The Maharshi's teachings are uniquely suited to modern life and provide for a clear and balanced synthesis of head and heart. He was not concerned with theory or philosophical discussion. Rather, he consistently guided the seeker back to the source of real being, with its theoretical basis in Advaita or non-duality. Ramana taught that we exist as the supreme self at all times. We need only awaken to this reality by seeking the source of the ego or I thought and abide in the self that we always are. He referred to this method as self-inquiry. The path of self-inquiry frees one from the unceasing fear and turmoil resulting from taking the ego to be real. By becoming free of the ego illusion, one experiences true freedom and supreme peace. It is this path that takes one from the apparent duality of the individual and the world to the bliss of one's real nature. Through this awakening to self-awareness, even by imperfect glimpses, one begins to sense a reality not confined to the ego's world. And this current of awareness is ultimately revealed as the self, pure consciousness. The Maharshi generally taught in silence, and the sincere seeker would often experience a silent influence in the heart. Verbal expression of this silence was always given freely to all and frequently combined with humor and laughter. While his physical presence was overwhelming and his majesty and beauty indescribable, he remained completely natural, simple, unassuming, and wholly unaffected. Join me as we explore the life and teachings of Ramana Maharshi and turn back to the source of abiding happiness, the source in which all questions and doubts resolve themselves in the awareness of our true self.
கண்ணுக்கு கண்ணாய் கண்ணின்றி காணுனை காணுவதேவர் பார் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
காந்தம் இரும்பு போல் கவர்ந்தேனை விடாமல் கலந்தேனோடிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கிரியுருவாகிய கிருபை கடலே கிருபை கூர்ந்தருளுவாய் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கீழ்மேலெங்கும் கிளரொளி மணியின் கீழ்மையை பாழ் செய் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
குற்றமுற்றறுத்தேனை குணமாய் பணித்தாள் குரு உருவாயொளிர் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கூர்வாட்கண்ணியர் கொடுமையில் படாதருள் கூர்ந்தேனை சேர்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கெஞ்சியும் வஞ்சியாய் கொஞ்சமும் இறங்கிலை அஞ்சலென்றே அருள் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கேளாதளிக்கும் கேடில் புகழை கேடு செய்யாதருள் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கையினில் கனியுன் மீரசம் கொண்டு வகை வெறி கொளவருள் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கொடியிட்டடியரை கொல்லுனை கட்டி கொண்டெங்கன் வாழ்வேன் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கோபமில் குணத்தோய் குறியாயனை கொள குறையன் செய்தேன் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா.
கௌதமர் போற்றும் கருணை மாமலையே கடை கணித்தாழ்வாய் அருணாச்சலா.
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ
சகலமும் விழுங்கும்.
Shortly before his 16th birthday, young Venkataraman first heard the name Arunachala, a sacred hill in the northern region of Tamil Nadu. Upon hearing the word Arunachala, Venkataraman spontaneously exclaimed, "What? From Arunachala? Where is that?" The surprised relative explained that Arunachala is the same place as Tiruvannamalai, the small hamlet that has been both a religious center and home to saints and sages over the centuries. It is very rare for one to realize his true nature in a spontaneous and almost effortless manner. But one day, a sudden and intense fear of death gripped the consciousness of Venkataraman, who outwardly was like any other normal, healthy 16-year-old boy. The shock of the fear of death drove his mind inward, and he felt that he must face his own mortality. Venkataraman lay down upon the floor and began to visualize and dramatize death. He held his breath and inquired, "Well then, now death has come, what does it mean? The body is dead. It will be carried to the burning ghat and there burned and reduced to ashes. But with the death of this body, am I dead? Is this body I?" What resulted from this death experience and the inquiry into the nature of the I was the instant and complete realization of the truth that he was not the inert body, nor mind made up of thoughts that come and go. He was the deathless spirit, the infinite I. This was the moment of enlightenment, the awakening to the eternal self. Ramana later described it this way: "Fear of death had vanished once and for all. Absorption in the self continued unbroken from that time on. Other thoughts might come and go like the various notes of music, but the I continued like the fundamental Shruti note that underlies and blends with all the other notes. Whether the body was engaged in talking, reading, or anything else, I was still centered on I." The young man's life was completely changed. No longer interested in worldly things, he secretly left home for the sacred hill Arunachala, which had reverberated in his consciousness some months earlier. He later referred to his state at this time. "When I left home, I was like a speck swept on by a tremendous flood. I knew not my body or the world, whether it was day or night." For young Venkataraman, there was nothing more to attain. He was already a self-realized person living in complete identity with the Absolute, absorbed in supreme consciousness with no thought of the body. And this is where the story begins. For a few people began to gather around the young sage, seeking his guidance. Perhaps it was simply the fulfillment of bodily karma, or the motiveless compassion that reacted to the desire for guidance on the part of those sincere seekers. But something seemed to draw him back to a fuller bodily life. Slowly, seekers would approach him to have a doubt cleared, or to simply sit in his peaceful presence. Shiva Prakasham Pillai was one of the early visitors who became captivated by the young sage. The teachings on self-inquiry as given to Shiva Prakasham Pillai became the key message of the Maharshi. The great Sanskrit scholar and ascetic Vashishta Ganapati Muni had mastered a broad range of scriptures, disciplines, and meditation practices. Feeling frustrated that he had not progressed further in experience, Ganapati remembered the young sage living on the hill and approached him with great emotion, desiring to know the true meaning of tapas, or spiritual practice. The young sage gazed at him silently for a while, and then replied, "If one watches whence the notion I arises, the mind is absorbed into that. That is tapas. When a mantra is repeated, if one watches the source from which the mantra sound is produced, the mind is absorbed in that. That is tapas." This response on the part of the young ascetic filled Ganapati Muni with joy, and he declared that Venkataraman should now be known as Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi.
தோயுமுன்மெய்யகம் தோயவே அருளின் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
தெய்வமென்றுன்னை சாரவே என்னை சேர ஒழித்தாய் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
தேடாதுற்றனல் திருவருள் நிதியகத்தியக்கம் தீர்த்தருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
தைரியமோடும் மெய்யகனாடையான் தட்டழிந்தேனருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
தொட்டருட்கைமை கட்டிடாயே நிலியன் நட்டமாவேனருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
தோடமில் நீயகத்தோடொன்றி என்றும் சந்தோடமொன்றிடவருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நகைக்கிடமிலை நின் நாடிய எனையருள் நகையிட்டு பார் நீ அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நாணிலை நாடிட நானாய் ஒன்றி நீ தாணுவாய் நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நின்னெறி எரித்தேனை நீராக்கிடுமுன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நீ நான் அறப்புலி நிதங்களிமயமா நின்றிடு நிலையருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நுண்ணுரு உனையான் விண்ணுரு நன்னிட எண்ணலை இருமென்றருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நூலறிவறியா பேதையன் என்றன் மாலறி வருத்தருள் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
நெக்கு நெக்குருகியான் புக்கிட உனை
Those who surrounded Ramana during his lifetime came from very diverse cultural and social backgrounds. What they had in common was a sincere aspiration to experience true inner peace and freedom. Ramana never saw anyone as separate from himself and had no disciples in the conventional sense. He told a visitor in 1936, "The person may call himself my disciple or devotee. I do not consider anyone to be my disciple. If people call themselves my disciples, I do not approve or disapprove. In my view, all are alike. What can I say to them?" He regularly said that the Guru was not the physical form, and guidance continues after the demise of the body. Therefore, there was no need to create a lineage or provide for transmission in order to carry on successorship. Several well-known devotees expressed the different ways in which they experienced Maharshi's presence and teachings. The inquiry is not a mental investigation such as psychologists might indulge in. It is not a probing into the faculties, urges, memories, or tendencies of one's conscious or subconscious mind, but a quest of the pure I amness that lies behind all these. To meet the needs of various seekers, Ramana did expound various doctrines. But we have heard him say that his true teaching, firmly based on his own experience, is ajata, that which was never born. The most touching sight is the number of tiny children, up to about 7 years of age, who climb the mountain all on their own to come and sit near Maharshi, even though he may not speak a word or hardly look at them for days together. They do not play, but just sit quietly there, in perfect contentment. You are the self, Ramana tells us. Nothing but the self. Anything else is just imagination. So be the self, here and now. There is no need to run off to a forest or shut oneself in a room. Carry on with your essential activities, but free yourself from association with the doer of them. Self is the witness. You are that. Bhagavan has written a song whose import is that the path is very easy if the mind is not allowed to stray after the senses and directed to inquire into its true nature. Certainly, the heart will be reached and the self perceived. The teaching of Bhagavan has acquired worldwide recognition and attracted earnest seekers from all 5 continents, as much for its simplicity as for its sturdy rationality, which appeal both to the head and the heart. It can, however, be summed up in the ancient dictum, know thyself, or seek the seeker. When Ramana spoke, the words seemed to come out of an abyss. One could see immaculate purity and non-attachment in him and his movements. In his vicinity, the mind's distractions were overpowered by an austere and potent calmness, and the unique bliss of peace was directly experienced. Again and again he gave us the teaching that the real Maharshi was not the body which people saw. It was the inner being. Those who never made the journey to India during his lifetime may take comfort in this thought, that it is possible to invoke his presence wherever they are and to feel its reality in the heart.
மலை மருந்திட நீ மலைத்திடவோ அருள் மலை மருந்தாயொளிர் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
மானம் கொண்டுருபவர் மானத்தை அழித்த விமானமில்லாதொளிர் அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
மிஞ்சிடிற் கெஞ்சிடும் கொஞ்சவரிவனியான் வஞ்சியாதருளேனை அருணாச்சலா
அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா
மீகாமன் இல்லாம
Ramana wrote very little and taught mainly through the tremendous power of silence. The writings of Ramana were created mostly to meet the specific needs of others and fall into two general categories. The first is where perfect knowledge is combined with the ecstasy of devotion. Tears of joy streamed down his face as he wrote them. These devotional poems mirror the aspect of longing and the bliss of fulfillment. The other writings enunciate his teachings in both poetry and prose. These include clear expositions of the nature of God, the mind, the world, and the individual. Just as Ramana realized the self without previous spiritual or philosophical instruction, he attached little importance to theoretical study. Therefore, his writings focus on the practical approach of turning toward the source of self-knowledge, rather than getting lost in the never-ending cycle of intellectual discussion. Ramana indicated that the heart was another name for God or the self. It is called heart since it is the source from which the universe rises. He stated, the heart is not physical. In Sanskrit, heart is hridaya, which means that which is the center. It is that from which thoughts arise, on which they subsist, and where they are resolved. The heart is the center of it all. It is said to be in the book Ramana Arunachala, Arthur Osborne writes, "It was the most majestic film I've ever seen, the most awe-inspiring, and yet without incident. A view of the Arunachala hill from the ashram drive, and then a tall, frail, light-complexioned man with short white hair descending the slope of the hill with the aid of a staff. Then he was seen coming out of the ashram hall, stopping to smile to a baby, walking across the ashram ground. Just simple, everyday actions. The simplicity was so natural, so spontaneous.